Kindly. In fact, we've got Mr. Bhagawati also with us. Mr. Bhagawati, what do you have to say? Your first thoughts about the kind of response that was seen on Yoga Day? It's encouraging, you think?
It is such a wonderful, wonderful response. We are here right now on the banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the Himalayas, at Parmarth Niketan, where we are joined by thousands of people from across the world. There's more than 30 people here, 30 countries of people here joining us. And it's been so beautiful because what we're seeing is that yoga really has the keys to all of that which ails us in our lives, whether it's physical illnesses, whether it's mental and emotional instability, anxiety, depression, whether it's separation and conflict in our families, in our communities, in our countries, or between nations. Yoga really has the key to all of that which ails us. And by the wonderful vision and the dedication and the charisma of our Honorable Prime Minister to have gotten this day officially declared as International Yoga Day is truly phenomenal. I mean, people have been doing yoga all over the world for such a long time, but now in one day
of International Yoga Day. Yes, Sadhvi, Bhagawati, I wanted to ask you, do you think the most important takeaway of International Yoga Day was the fact that finally people will be alive to the fact that it's not about imposing beliefs of any one religion, but it actually has health benefits which can be very simply acquired by doing the yogasanas of your choice? It doesn't have to be about only the Surya Namaskar or the chanting of mantras.
Absolutely. The word yoga means union. And so there's so many different ways of attaining that experience. It's like here we are on the banks of Ganga, and there's so many different ghats that lead down to Ganga. Some of the ghats are marbled, some of the ghats are dirt, some may have stairs, some may not have stairs. But ultimately the point is not which ghat we use to go into the waters of Ganga. Ultimately, the point is just get in. And the same thing is true with yoga. The benefits of yoga are so universal and so applicable to people of every country and every culture and every religion that regardless of which asana, which pranayam, or which of the yamas and niyamas one begins with, one is absolutely able to experience that great, great benefit and transformation of yoga. Here we always say yoga is not just a teaching, but yoga is a touch, and yoga is a transformation for our entire lives.
Absolutely, and very pertinent point, because will you reject something purely on the basis of its origins, or will you at least give it a chance depending on how beneficial it is? Would you also reject math tomorrow, or for that matter zero, because it has originated in the ancient Hindu text?
We also have Sadhvi Bhagawat here at this time. Good morning, Sadhvi Bhagawat. Your message to the people, and are you happy to see the spirit? आप देख रहे होंगे दुनिया जहान से ही नहीं, भारत भर से कई इलाकों से हम दिखा रहे हैं जहां लोग योग कर रहे हैं. आपको क्या लगता है?
I'm so happy to see this incredible response, because as we said, yoga means union. And it's not just a union of our nose to our knees, or a union of our fingers to the toes, or a union of our head to the ground. It's a union first within the self, of the breath to the body, the mind to the muscles, the body, the mind, and the spirit, then a union in our lives, in our families, in our communities, in our nation, and then of course between nations. And so it's so perfectly fitting that on this International Day of Union, people from every corner of the earth, every country, every culture, every color, and every creed are coming together to take part in this yoga. And it's such a wonderful manifestation and example of the mission and the message also of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, whose vision is for people of every color and every culture and every country and every creed to bring them this great gift for the body, health in the body, balance, stability, joy, peace in the mind and in the thoughts and in the emotions, and that ultimate union within ourselves and between ourselves and the entire world. Here at Parmarth, we've been joined by thousands of people from more than 30 countries across the world on the banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the Himalayas, in the place that is both the birthplace of yoga as well as the capital of yoga.
And despite all the criticism, one thing is very simple. Even if 5 more people adopt a healthier lifestyle through yoga or without it through other form of exercise, this entire International Day of Yoga would have been well worth that effort. Sadhvi Bhagwat, stay on with us.
Just going across to Sadhvi again, there is a lot of debate in terms of which is the right yoga to practice and whether or not it is offensive to certain faiths. What is your point of view on that?
It's a beautiful question. I think, first of all, there's no one right yoga. Just like there's no one right way to get into these waters of Mother Ganga. Depending on our age, depending on our health, depending on our flexibility, there's so many different ways that different people of different ages, different health, different abilities can practice yoga and benefit from this great, ancient, yet timeless art and science. In terms of the controversy, my feeling is that even though this science and this art, sure, came out of these Himalayas, it was something that was intuited, channeled, codified by sages and saints and rishis who were of the Hindu tradition. Nonetheless, the teachings themselves are ones that are beneficial and applicable for people of every religion, of every culture, of every walk of life. If you look, for example, at Ayurveda, take something like Triphala. Well, Triphala is a wonderful, wonderful medicine for things that ail, particularly our stomachs. But they don't require us to become Hindu in order for Triphala to benefit us. If a Christian person takes Triphala in the night, he or she will wake up in the morning with a clear stomach. But it's not that by taking Triphala somehow, along with health in the stomach, that person will have become Hindu, or that that person has to first become Hindu in order for the Triphala to benefit them. Albert Einstein was born Jewish, identified sometimes as agnostic, sometimes even as Buddhist. But it doesn't mean that all of the scientists, physicists, people all over the world who have benefited by his genius, who have benefited by the understanding of E equals mc squared, and have been able to take that as a foundation for their science, their discoveries. It doesn't mean that they have to identify as Jewish or agnostic or Buddhist. What the founder was has very, very little to do with the way that that discovery is beneficial and applicable for people all over the world. In the same way, yes, the founders of yoga came out of this tradition, but the teaching, the science, the art, the touch, the transformation are those that are available and applicable for people of every religion. At our International Yoga Festival, for example, each year in March, we have people who come from all over the world. More than 60 nations of people come together here in Rishikesh for the teachings, the touch, and the transformation. No one first becomes a Hindu and then comes, and no one comes from a Christian or a Jewish or a Muslim or a Sikh or an atheist background and leaves as a Hindu. Nonetheless, those teachings of yoga are ones that they take back in their lives and that bring union in their bodies through great health in the bodies, balance in the bodies, that bring inspiration, upliftment, joy, peace in their minds, in their hearts, and that bring union in their entire lives.
Well, let's leave the politicking aside and the entire issue, but there is also a conflict, and Sadhviji still continues to remain with us, and I'm just going across to her again. The follow-up question to my previous question to you. Now, how does somebody know that yoga is the right medium, right discipline for them? Should they approach it as an exercise? Should they approach it just because to get healthy? Because the doctor has said, unless you do yoga, you're not going to get better. Because those are the kind of messages that we tend to get these days, Sadhviji. So what is your request or urge to the people at large?
My request to everyone of any religion, whether they are new to yoga or they've been practicing yoga for a very long time, is to realize the wonderful depth and breadth of this great, great art, science, and way of life. Remember that Patanjali gave us 8 limbs of yoga that begin with the yamas and the niyamas. How do we live? The very first of the yamas is ahimsa, non-violence. Then satya, truthfulness. We don't have time to go into all of them, but the point is that these values, these ethics, non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-hoarding, purity, all of these foundations of yoga are ones that should be adopted by people of every religion, of every culture. And even if we don't ever do any asanas, and all we do is bring these yamas and niyamas into our life, that is also still a great, great yoga. And it is the foundation, of course, of the 8 limbs of yoga, from which the term Ashtanga Yoga comes from. These 8 limbs. Asana, the postures, is limb 3. Pranayam, the breathing exercises, limb 4. And what we all know is if you ever spoke to any contractor or architect and you tried to build a building or a home beginning with the 3rd floor, of course it would never work anyway. And so people of every religion, I think, need to bring in this foundation of yoga, whether they call it yama niyam, whether they simply call it good, righteous living, whether they call it values and ethics. Then from that, we bring in the asanas, we bring in the pranayama. And again, whether we use the word asana, whether we use the word posture, whether we use the
Very
word
rightly said, Sadhviji. What I'm going to do is, sorry to interrupt you there. I have to interrupt you just a bit. I'll come back to you and we will talk a little more on this.